evening, and welcome back to Whispers Before Sleep. Thank you for spending another peaceful evening with me. Perhaps today has been filled with responsibilities. Perhaps your thoughts have been racing from one moment to the next. Or perhaps you were simply looking for a quiet place to rest before sleep. Tonight, I'd like to take you somewhere very special. A tiny wooden tea house, nestled beside a peaceful lake, where time seems to move just a little more gently. The kettle is always warm. The chairs are always waiting. And every visitor leaves carrying something far more comforting than a cup of tea. So, take one slow breath, let your shoulders relax, and allow yourself to wander beside the still water. This is the tea house at the edge of the lake. Far from the noise of a crowded streets, beyond rolling hills and a quiet forest, there rested a small wooden tea house. It stood where the calm met a field of wildflowers. Every morning, mist floated gently across the water. White swans drifted peacefully near the shore. Dragonflies danced above the reeds. And somewhere in the distance, wind chimes softly greeted the day. The tea house had no grand sign, only a simple wooden board hanging beside the door. It read, "Come in when your heart needs to rest." The owner was an elderly woman named Mrs. May. Her silver hair was always tied neatly behind her shoulders. Her smile was gentle, her voice even gentler. Every morning before sunrise, she swept the wooden porch, watered the tiny herb garden, and placed a fresh pot of tea upon the old iron stove. Some visitors stayed only a few minutes. Others remained for hours. Mrs. May never hurried anyone. She believed tea should never be rushed. Neither should healing. One quiet afternoon, as soft rain began to fall across the lake, a young woman named Clara arrived. She carried a heavy backpack, but somehow it wasn't the backpack that made her seem tired. It was the weight she carried inside her heart. She stepped onto the porch. The old wooden floor creaked softly beneath her feet. Mrs. May looked up from preparing tea. Without asking a single question, she simply smiled. "Welcome. I have been expecting someone." Clara looked around in surprise. "Were you expecting me?" Mrs. May poured 2 cups of warm jasmine tea, then quietly replied, "No, but I was expecting someone who needed peace." Outside, the rain continued to fall gently upon the quiet lake. Inside, for the first time in many weeks, Clara felt herself breathe deeply. Perhaps some places do not ask us to explain our burdens. They simply invite us to set them down, even if only for a little while. The rain continued softly through the afternoon. Tiny circles appeared across the still surface of the lake, then quietly disappeared. Inside the tea house, Mrs. Mayer carefully prepared another pot of tea. Clara watched with curiosity. The old woman measured each tea leaf by hand. She poured the warm water slowly. Then, she simply waited. Several minutes passed. Neither of them spoke. Finally, Clara smiled. "Is something wrong?" Mrs. Mail chuckled softly. "No, the tea is simply becoming itself." Clara laughed. "I've never heard anyone say that before." Mrs. May placed the teapot gently on the wooden table. "Many people believe tea is ready the moment hot water touches the leaves." She shook her head gently. "But some things need quiet." need patience, need time. She slowly poured the tea into the small porcelain cups. The warm aroma of jasmine filled the room. Clara lifted the cup carefully. It was unlike any tea she had tasted before. Gentle, comforting, almost as if it had someone captured the peacefulness of the lake itself. Mrs. May smiled. Life often asks us to bloom before we are ready, to decide before we have understood, to hurry before we have rested. She looked toward the rain outside. But nature never rushes. The seasons arrive when they are ready. The flowers bloom when their time has come. The lake doesn't hurry the rain. Clara lowered her eyes. For months, she had been trying to solve every problem immediately. Every unanswered question had become another weight on her shoulders. Perhaps not every answer needed to arrive today. Perhaps some answers simply needed space. Outside, the rain slowly became lighter. The lake remained calm, as though it had been listening all along. The next morning, golden sunlight danced across the surface of the lake. Bird song drifted gently through the open windows. Clara noticed something she had not seen the day before. Near the largest window sat a small wooden chair. Unlike the others, it was never used. Every morning, Mrs. May carefully dusted it, strengthened its cushion, and placed a fresh flower beside it. Yet, no one ever sat there. Finally, Clara asked, "Why do you keep that chair empty?" Mrs. May smiled. "Because every heart needs a place to remember." Clara looked puzzled. The chair is not reserved for one person. It is reserved for whoever needs a quiet moment with someone they miss. Sometimes, a son sat there remembering his mother. Sometimes, a grandmother remembered the laughter of her grandchildren. Sometimes, someone simply sat quietly, without speaking at all. The chair never judged. It never hurried anyone. It is simply waited. Mrs. May looked toward the lake. "You see, we often believe healing means forgetting." She gently shook her head. But healing is not forgetting. It is learning to remember, without the pain becoming heavier than the love. Clara walked toward the chair. She did not sit immediately. Instead, she looked through the window. The lake shimmered beneath the morning sun. She thought about her grandfather. He had taught her how to make paper boats when she was a little girl. For years, she had avoided thinking about him. The memories felt too painful. But today, she smiled. She remembered his laughter, his warm hands, the way he always believed she could do anything she dreamed of. A single tear slipped down her cheek, not from sadness, but from gratitude. She finally understood. Love does not disappear when someone leaves. It simply finds a quieter place to live. Sometimes inside an old photograph, sometimes inside a favorite song, and sometimes inside a quiet chair beside a peaceful lake. That evening, the wind became perfectly still. The lake looked like a polished glass. Mrs. May invited Clara to walk with her to the water's edge. Neither of them hurried. The wooden dock creaked softly beneath their footsteps. When they reached the end, Mrs. May pointed toward the lake. "What do you see?" Clara looked carefully. "I see the moon." the stars, and our reflections. Mrs. May nodded. Now, she picked up a tiny pebble and gently dropped it into the water. Soft ripples spread across the lake. The moon blurred. The stars shimmered. Their reflections disappeared for a moment. Mrs. May smiled. The moon never stopped shining. The stars never disappeared. The lake simply needed time to become still again. Clara watched the ripples slowly fade. Little by little, the reflection returned. Clear, peaceful, beautiful. Mrs. May turned toward her. Our hearts are much the same. When life becomes noisy, we think we have lost our peace. But peace isn't gone. It's simply waiting beneath the ripples. Clara closed her eyes. She listened to the gentle breeze, the quiet water, the distant song of crickets. For the first time in many months, there was nothing she needed to fix, nothing she needed to chase. She simply stood there, breathing, and that was enough. The days passed quietly. Soon, a full week had gone by. Each morning, Clara woke to birds singing outside her little room above the tea house. She helped Mrs. May sweep the wooden porch, water the herbs, arrange fresh flowers on each table, and prepare the morning tea. The work was simple, yet somehow it made every day feel full. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the distant hills, Mrs. May lit a small lantern on the porch. It was warm light reflected across the calm lake. Would you like one last cup of tea before you leave tomorrow? Clara smiled. I would. Mrs. May prepared the tea just as she always had, slowly, patiently, without rushing a single step. When the tea was ready, they carried their cups outside. The air was cool. The lake was perfectly still. Above them, thousands of stars quietly filled the night sky. For a long while, neither of them spoke. The silence felt complete. Finally, Clara broke it. I almost did not come here. Mrs. May nodded gently. Many people almost don't. I thought I needed answers. And did you find them? Clara looked across the lake. She thought carefully before replying. I don't think I found answers. I think I found peace. Mrs. May smiled. Sometimes peace arrives first. The answers follow later. Clara laughed softly. I wish more people knew that. The old woman lifted her cup. They do. They have simply forgotten. The lantern flickered gently. Somewhere across the lake, an owl called into the quiet night. Clara looked around one final time. The little tea house, the flowers, the wooden dock, the gentle mist floating across the water. She knew she would never forget this place. Before returning inside, Mrs. May handed her a small cloth pouch. Inside were a few dried jasmine tea leaves and a tiny handwritten note. It simply read, Whenever life becomes too loud, make a cup of tea, breathe slowly, and remember the lake. Clara carefully folded the note. She placed it inside her journal, not because she feared forgetting, but because she wanted to remember, again and again. Before you fall asleep tonight, think about the places where your heart feels peaceful. Perhaps it's beside the window while rain falls softly outside. Perhaps it is in the kitchen while a warm drink fills the room with a gentle aroma. Perhaps it is sitting beneath a favorite tree or listening to the waves upon a quiet shore. Whatever your peaceful place may be, visit it often, not only with your feet, but with your heart. Life will always have busy days, unexpected storms, questions without immediate answers. But somewhere inside you, there is always a quiet lake, always a warm cup of tea, always a place where your heart can rest. Tonight, may your thoughts become still. May your breathing become slow. And may your dreams carry you gently back to the peaceful places that have always been waiting for you. Thank you for joining me at the little tea house beside the lake. I hope tonight's story has brought a little warmth in your heart, a little stillness to your mind, and a gentle reminder that peace is often found in life's simplest moments. Until we meet again, may your mornings begin with hope, may your evenings end with gratitude, and may you always find time to pause. Take a slow breath and enjoy the quiet gift of the present moment. Good night, sleep peacefully, and remember, just like a perfect cup of tea, the sweetest moments in life are never the ones we rush. They are the ones we quietly savor.